Hello, dear friends. One of the most exciting topics during 2024 and 2025 is the retrograde marathon that we are going to face with. We are going to start with Mercury turning retrograde, then Mars, then Venus, and again Mercury. And all of those cycles are connected and they are affecting each other. So, if you would like to understand better how to prepare for this marathon, in this video, I want to show you the most important points to consider. And also, I would like to invite you to join the very special marathon, which will continue for 4 Zoom meetings within approximately 2 weeks, and we will go even more in depth. So if you are interested, I will let you know about this at the end of this video. And now let's start with the main topic, the retrograde cycles. Well, first of all, we know that Mercury is retrograde each year for 3 or 4 times. It depends. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. And Mercury is always retrograde in the same element during the year. And then it changes from one year to another. There are times when Mercury starts to shift from one element to the previous one, and it continues again for a few cycles, and then it changes. So Mercury will be retrograde this time from the fire signs, and then at some point it will move from fire to water signs. Very interesting that Venus and Mars are gonna do exactly the same. They will start their retrograde motions from fire signs, and both of them are gonna move and end the retrograde cycle in water signs. And all of that, my friends, is not a coincidence. And if you want to understand better, for example, how Venus retrograde will affect you or how Mars retrograde will affect you, because those are more rare, more special events, the first thing to remember, don't try to kind of like grasp it from the other stuff and to analyze it separately. Because in this way, you will miss the context. You will miss what is currently going on. Just an example from real life. Imagine that you have very, very cold water. Is this a good or a bad thing? Well, if it's in the middle of the summer or you are in Dubai, probably this will be great and you would really enjoy to have some cold water. But if it's in the middle of winter or you are somewhere high in the mountain, most likely cold water is not exactly what you want. You would prefer hot tea. And the same is happening with the planetary influences. We can analyze them separately and describe them. Okay, so here we have something that seems to be cold water, metaphorically, of course. Or there is another thing that looks more like warm tea or some kind of juice, or we can describe the different events separately. But then in order to understand how they will work, how we are going to feel about them, how they will also fit into our life, we need to look at the overall picture. We need to see what are the other retrograde cycles, what is currently going on. That's really, really important. So please don't forget this. Again, we will talk about this in details during our marathon in November. So those planets are all moving from fire to water signs, and this is gonna play a major role. Plus, if we check the degrees from which they start their retrograde motion, we will see that there is also resonance. Some of the planets are gonna be retrograde in exactly same degrees, sometimes in the same signs, and that's again extremely important. So if you want to see this picture, you have to see it as one general flow, not just Mercury retrograde or Venus retrograde. A little bit about the actual details. So this whole chain of retrogradeness begins on the 25th of November with Mercury turning retrograde. After that, Mars will turn retrograde from the 6th of December. Then the 1st of March, Venus turns retrograde, and Mercury on the 14th of March. So during some of those times, there will be overlapping of the cycles, which is again so important. And they are not just affecting us separately. We have to see how they affect us all together. And this focus on fire and then moving back to water is also essential. Mercury has been doing this for a while. Mercury used to be retrograde in the last cycles from fire signs, but now it will be from fire and back to water. And next year, during 26, it will be more in the water energy. So we have a general tendency from fire, things are starting there, but then going back to the water energy. So in some way, one of the big topics for all of us is to reconsider or to readjust or to change how we connect to the fire energy, first of all, which is related mostly to our initiatives, to the things that we start, our idea of independence and doing things on our own. Those things are about to change. They should change. And because then the planets move back to the water energy, then there should be more depth, there should be more understanding, there should be more emotional alignment when it comes to our initiatives or things that we want to start doing or anything that is related to our passion, our enthusiasm, and other things that we would like to begin. So we will discuss this again in more details. Another thing to consider also, the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes are also in resonance with those retrograde cycles, and they should be included in the whole picture. Plus, there will be a conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, which is also part of the retrograde cycles. And on top of that, there will be an eclipse during the spring, which will be also included in the retrograde marathon. So all of this is creating this environment. In other words, all of this will help us to define, are we going to be in Dubai or somewhere high in the mountain or maybe partly under the ground? We have to consider all of this so that then we will see the different cycles and how they will personally affect us. So if you are interested, if you are excited, for the first time, I'm offering such a marathon, which will be extremely affordable. There will be 4 sessions included on Zoom, starting from the 9th of November. And every few days we are gonna meet. There is a program already. You can check all the information below the video. And all of the webinars will be recorded. So if you can't join us live, you can always catch up the recording. There is an option also to get a personal reading of how those retrograde cycles will affect you personally. And the most in-depth option is also to get GSR sessions, which will help you to work on something specific that you would like to transform. During this marathon, we will focus on painting, seeing this bigger picture that is related to how each of those cycles connects to the others. We will explore, of course, each of the cycles separately as well. The shadow zone, when this all starts, when it's gonna end, the actual retrograde phase, which is basically the most obvious time, but not the only one we should consider while the planet is actually retrograde. I will show you how you can find where is this retrograde cycle gonna be in your chart personally. And also I will share with you how each sign and each house position will be triggered by each retrograde cycle. So we are going to have separate webinar for Mercury. Mercury will have a couple of cycles, not just one. So we are going to look at them all together. Then we will talk about Mars and also about Venus. And the final webinar, maybe the most interesting one, will be about putting all of this together. And I will read someone's chart. I will show you how you can find this general impact in your chart, the specific life areas that will be triggered, and also, this is probably the most important part, how to find if those retrograde cycles are triggers of something which is already a theme in your life. In other words, something that might be triggered by secondary progressions or slower transits or something else that is already a theme in your chart. Because that's another specific thing. The retrograde cycles, they could be like the activation of something that is already happening. For example, that's what's going to happen with this Saturn-Neptune conjunction. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction is happening around the spring, around Pisces, Aries, and Mercury and Venus are going to be retrograde there through the same degrees. So, of course, this is all happening together and it's part of one major process. And we are going to talk about all those details. But again, my main purpose is not just to talk to you about Venus. Venus is retrograde every 18 months for 40 days. And this time Venus is retrograde in Aries. Okay, we are going to discuss this and that's important, but it's much more important to see how this Venus cycle is related to previous cycles, how it's related to other cycles of other planets and other astrology events altogether. Then Mars, then also Mercury, which is having this very regular retrograde cycles as well. And it's like, you know, putting the beginning and the end of the whole marathon right now. And then you will be able to see, aha, okay, so right now I'm maybe in Peru or somewhere else, or I'm on the beach or wherever you are, but to see where is this leading you, so that again it's not just the small details, but it's more like this ego eye perspective, and that's the most important in astrology. So it will generally be helpful for you to understand the logic, because if you want a deeper understanding in astrology, you need to be able to put all of those things together and see them as one big picture, like the whole environment, not just individual things that we don't know where exactly they fit. So I'm really, really excited. Again, we are starting on the 9th of November. The whole marathon will be on Telegram. But if you don't have Telegram, you can also email me and I will send you the links separately. Otherwise, on Telegram, it will be great because there can be communication. There will be more accessible also links, recordings, and all of this. So check the link below. And if you're interested, you are welcome to join us. And don't forget again to try to look at this overall perspective and to prepare. The marathon starts, I mean, not our marathon, but the planet's marathon will start on the 25th of November. That's when Mercury starts the retrograde motion. And the actual marathon will end on the 13th of April, but we will check also after that the other cycles of Mercury. So it will be a full adventure. So if you also want to prepare for this, you are invited to join us. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you soon.